Joel. It's in the morning. You've given us time, and I'm so excited to meet somebody who's also a writer and then a marketer because I come from the same background. I started with writing and then came into marketing. And your whole profile is like an inspiration. The LinkedIn profile, been here, done that. It's like my to-do list was your profile while I was researching. So thank you so much for taking our time and doing this with Story. I would love to know your stories, given that you are a writer, marketer, traveler, TEDx speaker, you have a job at a great company, and then you're doing your side hustle. It's everything that I ever wanted to know, and I'm going to ask you all those questions through this interview. So I hope you're as excited as I am. And yeah, welcome.
Thank you so much, Unnati. This is one of the few mornings where I'm very excited, given the fact that I absolutely do not like mornings in general. I'm not a very morning person, but I said, okay, today is a nice day. Today is going to be like something different is going to be happening in the morning. So I said, let's look forward to it. I'm so glad that you sort of, you said that you sort of liked it and it's sort of like on your bucket list and stuff like that. And I really hope that your LinkedIn profile ends up becoming longer than what I have done, and you end up, doing so much more than what I've done. Because even I started off as just looking up at so many people and be like, damn, this is just so good and it's so inspirational, and sort of that's what also drives me towards pursuing and doing what I did. So I really hope that you become much more and you end up doing so much more, and that your LinkedIn profile is larger, and somebody walks up to you someday and tells you that hey Unnati, we saw your profile and we really loved it, and you're really an inspiration, and tell us how you did it. So yeah, I hope that also happens someday.
Absolutely. So are you ready for the interview?
Am I think so, yeah.
Okay, so it'll be divided into two parts. One would be generic questions wherein you can think through the questions, and the second would be a rapid fire. Very generic rapid fire, so you don't have to, and it is just like coffee with Karan, where you are
is there a hamper in the end? Is there a hamper in the end is the important question.
I am the hamper. You are getting to talk to me. No, just kidding.
God, so glad. I'll just add this to my LinkedIn profile. Spoke to Unnati.
I need to talk to Story about the hamper now. Okay.
Yeah.
So my first question has to be this very, very obvious question, because I want to know the mindset that you are in. What makes you Joel? What makes your mindset, your schedule, your routine? What's like your core? That's your non-negotiable. That makes you the person that you are. Because thousands of us are trying to do what you're doing right now, managing things so well, at least at the outside of it. I'm not sure what is the chaos behind the scenes, but I am pretty sure there's something. But what keeps you so tight and there out in the market so well? The persona comes out so well. So what's the core?
I think for the longest part, what also inspired, not I won't say inspired, but what sort of the Joel is right now is because the Joel that is right now always stayed hidden for the longest time. Because I never was this person who was very extrovert or very outgoing. I was a very shy person growing up. I had a lot of body issues growing up. I had a lot of issues interacting with people growing up. And I didn't know how to make friends, and I didn't have a lot of friends, and I was not this person that I am today. But I think over time, what also sort of helped was realizing that that I had so many stories and so many things inside my head, and I did not know whether if I put them out there, are people really interested in reading them? Are people really sort of interested in knowing these stories? I always felt they were too weird. But I think it was that one leap of faith that I took. I sort of decided that it's maybe if I don't put these out there, they either just going to stay with me, and I'm too lazy to write with a pen and paper and maintain a journal somewhere. So I said it might as well, it's just better if I start putting the stuff out there I put. And I think that's what sort of started the journey, in terms of firstly the becoming this writer that that I now am. And also, I mean, for me, I think it's also finding a balance between being lazy and also doing the stuff that you want to do. Because I am lazy. I'm going to admit that for sure. But I also there's also so many things that interest me and so many things that I like doing that I'm like I have to find the time to do every single thing that's on the list. So I mean, whether it's whether it's writing, whether it's pursuing another creative interest, whether it's watching something, whether anything like consuming content. For me, it's always been like, I mean, there are 24 hours in a day, and there's definitely a way to sort of fit everything inside of it. And I'm a huge night person. I love staying. I'm just huge night owl. So for me, a lot of the writing and the creative stuff happens post 11:30, 12 in the night when I sort of sit and do it. So for me, uh, it's been a lot of juggling, and I know sometimes I take up too many things, but I only take things up when I know that I can fit them on my plate. And if there's something that's that if there's a project or there's anything that comes my way and I know I'm not going to be able to do 100% justice to it. I choose to not take it up because I'd rather not take up something rather than not give the 100% that I'm supposed to give to a particular project. So for me, it's always been like that. Do the things you love doing, and automatically everything just falls into place, right? And take up things that you can do. Don't overpromise and underdeliver. Like underpromise and overdeliver has always been one of the things that I've looked forward towards doing. So that's just something I've followed all through my life, and it fortunately work. And also stick to deadlines. That's one thing I always adhere by. So that's really helpful in terms of managing everything, make sure everything falls into place. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, it did. It did. I think most of us are biting more than we can chew.
Yeah.
So if at mental, physical, emotional, financial, at every level, you feel a little more sorted if you know what you have to do and you're able to do it. Sometimes dissatisfaction just not comes from clients, but also from ourselves, because we are constantly trying to do more than we can, and then we fail at it, and then we question ourselves. So which is a very valid point. Given the toxic hustle culture and everybody is trying to run somewhere or the other, this is such a soothing answer to hear, that it's okay if you're not biting more than that you can chew. It's really good for your own well-being. So thank you for that. Now, but regardless of that, when I come to the materialistic side of your job and your profile, you have so many people engaging with you, following you and everything on LinkedIn, and I'm pretty sure you have a base on other platforms as well. So how do you like, how does it come to you? How do you write your post? How do you think about writing? Okay, I understand that your creative zone starts post 11:30 p.m. or something, but how do you get into that zone? Or does it come very naturally to you? Those stories of being bullied, or those stories of talking to people, traveling, do they also contribute in the person you are today and your writings?
Uh, Definitely, for sure, because a lot of the LinkedIn writing, and I started posting a lot of LinkedIn sometime last year, right, when the sort of the pandemic started. Before that, I was not very active on LinkedIn because I always thought LinkedIn was this platform which was super formal, and you had to be like super, like you had to sort of be super careful of what you posted, and you couldn't post anything funny, and you only had to post hiring stories, and you only had to post every time you sort of you landed a new job or something like that. But I think over time, and I actually started building my platform actually on Instagram, because that was again a platform I started building years ago. And I mean, for me, I have this inherent habit inside of me, is where I even on Instagram when I started building it, is that I would reply to everybody who commented on my post, right? Literally everybody commented on my post. I did it when I had 2,000 followers. I did it now that I have over 40,000. It is just a normal habit that has stuck with me, and it's also something that comes to me. Why? Because I always feel that if someone sort of, firstly, so I know I'm digressing a little, but I mean, firstly, so I also realized that if people are engaging with your content in some way, I mean, you could always respond to them, right? That's the one thing that's always there when you're building a platform. Is that you could, I mean, if you're posting stuff out there, you're building an audience, but if you're engaging with them, you're building a community, right? That's the base level of any building a presence on any platform. When I was talking about the content on LinkedIn, I mean, I in fact was very wary of posting longer format content, because I write both a longer format content as well as short format content. And for me, I'm not big on Twitter, so I don't know how Twitter works. But I had a lot of insights about advertising, because I was in advertising, and I have a lot of, and I still work on one side of advertising here at TC also. And I have a lot of insights about advertising that sort of come, and there are a lot of things, there are a lot of learnings for me that have happened over the years in terms of writing that has sort of taught me and helped me, sort of write better in some way. So for me, I always like using those insights and those observations in the pieces that I put out on LinkedIn, especially. I do a mix of two things. I put out a lot of observational takes and my viewpoints on a lot of things. And I also like putting out stories that have happened to me in the past, and the slightly longer ones. And then again, observational stories that have sort of happened to me. And everything, right? Everything that I sort of have, either put out or sort of written about, LinkedIn especially, because it's all non-fiction. It's all happened in real life. Sort of. So for me, I always, I mean, for me, I like observing something or talking to enough people and seeing how that can be sort of used in there. And mostly everything is sort of that goes on LinkedIn. There's no specific time for me to have sort of thought about it. If I'm sitting and something strikes me, I will write it down because I have a notepad that's full of LinkedIn ideas. So there is that which is basically a thought that I can probably put out. So I will try different set structures and see what works, and then finally trim it and then just put it out there. There's no set timing to think of the piece. But I mean, when it depending on whenever it comes. But again, I mean, yeah, for me, a lot of stuff that I've put out, especially on LinkedIn, is because of the observations that I've had around me or the insights that I've sort of gathered from the work that I've done. Whereas Instagram is completely different. That's a lot of fiction. None of that is real. So and that platform is completely different because the audience that I've built in there has come there for a lot of the fiction writing that I've done over the years. So they've stayed around for a long time. That audience has grown, and they're amazing people. So LinkedIn again is growing. So this is a complete different audience to me. So I mean, I'm trying to sort of also find a balance on how I can, sort of put out different set of stories for different audiences and see how those grow. But I mean, yeah, it's been a very interesting journey. I started actually growing LinkedIn since last year, and it's been going well. So I'm quite happy with how it's thriving.
Okay, so that's all 1 year summed up. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So, you have a job and you also do your own side hustle, and you're not stopping at your job, which also makes you creative in your job. I feel people who have side hustles know how to troubleshoot, etc., and that skill can be used in their job. But how do you manage the two, given that we are in between a pandemic? Our mental health is going down. You can't travel. You have freelancing clients, and then you have your job. So how do you manage everything? Like, what's the balance like?
I mean, I'll be super blunt and super honest with this. Is that I mean, the thing is, when I started out also as this career, I mean, I come from very my mom's a single mom. We did not have a lot of money growing up. It's been very hard for a long time before I started my career in sort of the creative industry in general. Yeah, there have been a lot of hard times that I've seen, and I know what the value of money is, and how important it is in general. And when I was picking the creative field, also it was a very conscious decision, knowing that am I going to be able to make enough money, or is it going to be one of those things where it's just just for the for your own joy and pleasure doing the job. But I think in time I was fortunate enough, to land good jobs and good gigs, where I was not only just creatively fulfilled, but also it helps sort a lot of the financial things back home. And I think when I'm fortunate enough to have landed clients, especially also on the freelance side, who've not just who don't just come from a business perspective also, but are also genuinely nice people. So they've just been very nice, and they're very they let me do what I do best, and then they sort of they give me that freedom to sort of do it, and that's what I like doing. Also, I like picking clients to work with, not just brands. So I feel it's important for you to gel with the person you're dealing with, also not just the brand, right? Because while the brand might be good, if you're not on the same wavelength with the person you're dealing with, maybe you're not going to get the work out there, right? So I mean, for me, I mean, I do a day job which takes away most of my time. As I said, like post my work hours, which is the 11 o'clock time, is when I sort of get to these other projects also, or on the weekends if I'm free. So for me, again, it was mostly from a perspective of also the money, which was there, which had to come for a lot of financial reasons. But that's what now I'm in a better place now, where I can pick my clients, where I can say, like, I want to do this, I want to do that. So it's fortunately it's in a better place right now. But I've always loved working on diverse projects. So if a project really interests me, I will make time for it. Right? It is just me. I will make time for it, whether it's It's working on it's working on a new product that's launching on an app, or whether it's consulting for a show, or whether it's consulting for a brand and telling them how to do it, whether it's even revamping and writing the copy of a website. If I like it, I will make time for it. It's just how it is with me. Like for me, if a brand is really exciting and the person I'm talking to, if I find that they are that they are in that wavelength where they can where they know what they want, I'm like, great. Let's do this. Let's work together. Let's help solve something for you. Let's create something for you. So that's just been my goal. Like I love diverse work. I love taking up work from different sort of fields of writing also, because it helps me upskill a lot. So and it helps me put those skills to use also. So for me, it's always been like okay, fine, take the person. If they're great, if the product's great, if the work is great, let's just do it, and then it just falls into place, and I make time for it anyhow. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to this story so much personally and professionally.
Yeah.
I started writing because I needed money. And
Yeah.
then it sort of just changed the entire equation for me. So, okay. And that's so interesting that if something interests you, you actually make time for it. That's such a nice
Yeah.
line. People think that 24/7 hustling is something, but no, your passion actually doesn't let you stop.
Yeah.
And that's what I've seen in your case. And given that your profile is so varied and it has all the colors and titles and everything, makes me realize how passionate you are for it. Although you started for a financial reason, but now the way it
Right.
has been curated, it is because of
Yeah.
interest and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I mean, for me, sorry to cut you off again. I mean, for me, again, it was, as you mentioned, right? The whole, I mean, it was never hustle, right? I mean, I again, in general, don't like that hustle culture. It gets a little, I mean, people sort of advocate for it, and it's great. I mean, they feel the certain way. I'm not too much in that. I feel that if you like something and you're doing something, you give your 100% towards that, right? But don't burn yourself out in a way that that it affects your physical and mental health in a way that that you're not able to do anything as far as that. So that's just the one thing I sort of always sort of look for whenever projects come my way also. So yeah.
Wow. Yes, that makes a lot of sense and gives me a lot of clarity on the next step that I'm trying to take. And now a very to the point question: what's your hack around growing on LinkedIn? Because I see so many people just curating content, not engaging this and that, and then I see your profile magically growing in 1 year, and not just growing in terms of number of followers, but also the kind of respect that people have, or the community that you have built, moreover, or the
uh,
intention that I feel, or the warmth that's there on the profile. Because sometimes people just treat it as a personal brand. But for you, I feel it's a community that is coming out in the making. So, how do you do that?
Again, right? I mean, I mean, as I said this right at the start, right? I mean, for and I do this when I tell people about when I talk to people about writing also, is that I tell them, I said, focus on building your own voices as a creator, right? Because that's very important. Because people should sort of see something that you've created somewhere else and be like, oh, I know Unnati created this, right? That's what the first reaction should be like, because it has your voice inside that piece that you created, and it's something that I follow in writing, and it's something that I've brought into the creation also across the board wherever I create, not just for LinkedIn but for any platform when I'm doing it. Is that this is the voice that I have, and this is the voice that I have, right? There's no, I cannot fake being someone that I'm not. Like, when I can try being formal and try putting out certain things, but if that's not you, I mean, chances are that either you can really make people believe in it, and it's great. It might work for you, but I personally, for me, this is the voice that I have. This is the way I talk, right? This is the way I talk to people. This is the way I write in this channel, and I try to bring a lot of those personal traits inside the post I even create on LinkedIn. And as I mentioned right earlier, I'm saying stop treating it like an audience, right? You start treating it like a community, because the moment you stop treating it like an audience is when you start realizing that, oh, it's the community I want to grow, and it's not an audience that I'm having a one-sided conversation with. It's them talking to you, talking to them, and the engagement automatically happening. So I mean, focus on building a community, not an audience, is what I always sort of approach things from that perspective. But even across the board, even when I'm working, it's just that. So bringing my own voice into it is number one, and then just building the community is the second one. And that's the only. I don't know if there's a hack. Those seem pretty normal things. But for me, I don't know if there's a hack. But I just try being myself, and it fortunately works. So I'm glad.
Great.
Yeah.
And so, what's the one underrated feature of LinkedIn that you really appreciate, but you don't see people leveraging it?
I don't know if people don't leverage it or what, but I love the in-mail feature. I feel it's I know it's a little it you can get access to it only if you pay for the premium, but I feel it's a great feature. Why? Because if you want to sort of reach out to someone, especially with like say if you need like if you want to sort of drop in your resume somewhere or something, it really helps. That's I think the in-mail feature is really great to use. I'm not talking about the ad one. I'm talking about the personal feature that you get. You can actually in-mail people. So that's a really interesting feature. I also like the LinkedIn courses. I don't know how many people take those courses, but they have a lot of courses I've realized which you get access to once you unlock the premium. So that's like a great sort of feature which is in there, and you can actually and the course and some of the people who give the courses are fantastic at what they do. I mean, Guy Kawasaki has done a course, and I was watching that, and and he actually does a course on how to grow LinkedIn because it's actually quite a nice course because he actually breaks it down into a lot of different parts, and it's actually very helpful. And I mean, if you follow that, you can actually get some amazing tips and insights from how to grow your LinkedIn profile. So Guy Kawasaki on LinkedIn Learning is amazing, and it's a course everyone should sort of just check out because it really helps.
That's so nice. I have never had anybody in this series who has appreciated LinkedIn learning thing. So okay, that's a key takeaway. And so, Joel, imagine everything comes to an end, whatever you've built so far. How will you
So
rebuild it? And I hope that never, never, never.
I will rebuild it by crying in my pillow and not getting up from there because I think it's one of the most scariest things for a creator to think that all the community that you built is has just gone, right? And I remember having this conversation on a clubhouse session that I was hosting a while back with a bunch of Instagram writers who were like sort of friends, and some other digital marketers were also part of that panel on the clubhouse panel, and we were discussing that that what happens one day if you lose all your audience on the platform that you're on. And the biggest thing, at least for me as a writer, the biggest thing that can sort of the only solution can happen is that I moved to a newsletter. So I have owned my audience in some way over there. So I have access to my audience in some way. Because the newsletter will stay, right? I mean, email will not go. Email will always stay. No matter which end of the world we reach, the email will always stay. So I will just take solace in the fact of understanding that I have some sort of an audience that I've sort of owned and kept as a newsletter subscriber base, which I can have access to, and that's the one thing that will help me. And I will cry in my pillow. So those are the two things that I will sort of resort to if anything happens. But I hope that never happens. That's a scary
Got it. Got it. And so, what is your networking tip for people? Anybody who's looking at this interview right now, what's one tip that you can give on around networking on LinkedIn?
Um, for me, and I think this is something that I have sort of built over time in this general is that if I like a piece of work and if I know who the creator is, I would reach out to the creator and tell them I love what you created. I just do that. It's just inherent to me. Like,
That's so
and
sweet.
that's how I've also ended up making a lot of friends over the years where I've loved something that they've created and I reach out to them and I'm like, hey, I really love what you've made. I loved how you created it and the insight is brilliant around it. And I tell them what I loved also about it. So I mean, it just doesn't feel like I'm just surface level praising them. But I mean, I always reach out to people whose work I've really loved, and I've been doing this for years. I did this when I was starting out as a writer. When I loved certain writers, and they actually happened to be people from the advertising industry itself, and I didn't even know them back then. And I just reached out to them and told them, I really love, and they were very nice and very kind. And a lot of them have still stayed friends over the years. Like a lot of people now also, if who have sort of in general, if I've liked their work, I always reach out to them, tell them that I really like it. Even if it's in the form of a comment, it's all right, or whether it's in the form of a message, that also all right. But I also like finding people who like similar things as I do. So I mean, if I ever find that, I will always reach out to them and tell them, hey, I also really love this, and I really love what you do. So I don't know if it's a hack or what, but at the end of the day, we're all human in some way, right? And there's that one common factor that sometimes just binds all of us together. And it's nice when you find that in a person and you can just reach out to them and just tell them, and especially with work, right? Because sometimes advertising is also, and I'm talking specifically with advertising here, but advertising is such a thankless field, right? I mean, you create what you create is just gone out there. And just, sometimes people don't even know you made it, but it's always nice when you have someone who sort of at least appreciates what you've made, or spots that you've made something, and reaches out to you and tells you that, hey, this is great, you know what you've done. And a lot of people underestimate the idea of complimenting other people, but I think it's just a great thing. And if you feel that you like a piece of work, you should just tell someone, because it will actually make their day. And I always believe in
Wow. Yes, absolutely.
that.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Um, wow. I'm still in that answer. Anyway, so I'll move to the last question of the series, and then we'll move to the rapid fire. And that is, how did you land the TEDx platform,
Uh,
speech, whatever? Like,
um,
did you deliberately apply for it, or did they come to you given your story and your experiences? And how was the experience? Because it is seen as the first step towards the bigger picture
yeah,
of your personal branding and stuff
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
And it's truly deserved. So how was the whole experience from
So,
starting to, yeah.
so I saw my first TEDx talk actually when I was in my first year of degree college.
Mhm.
And I remember we were in class. Our professor was showing it to us, and she showed us. She played the video screen. I was blown away. That was the first time I'd watched a TEDx talk, and I didn't even know that there were these
Existed.
bunch of talks existed in the world, and where they spoke about every single thing in the world. And I remember I watched it for the first time, and I was amazed, by the amount of knowledge that you could get from this one talk, or the insights that you could get from this one talk. And it was like on my bucket list. It was like, oh, someday I hope I'm able to stand up on a stage, and in the middle of the red circle, and look at an audience and talk to them. That was like a dream happening. And in fact, in my second or third year, I ended up starting this YouTube channel with a bunch of my friends, and it was we were one of the first early adopters into the short film thing on in the Indian scene from YouTube. And the films really grew. We did like 5 films, all of them like crossed like 300K, 400K views back then, which was
Ooh.
a huge thing, and we did a brand film immediately after that, which was a New York-based app brand film, and it was going great. But unfortunately, we all graduated, and everyone went their own step. I was doing it with three other friends of mine from another college, but they all went their own separate ways. But long story short, that YouTube channel still exists, and it was what sort of started my entrepreneurial sort of stint into the industry. And after that, I remember I landed a full time job. I worked, at NEET. I moved things. I finally landed a CET. And in 2018 was when I got this mail from TEDx HLCC, which is in Ahmedabad, which is from the university, and I got this mail from them where they said that we've seen the YouTube channel that you've made, and we know what you're doing right now. And they wrote like this really long mail. And they were like, would you be interested in? And I got this as a Instagram DM actually, where they were like, would you be interested in doing this? And I said, of course, I will be interested in doing this. There's no way of saying no to this. And then they sent me this long mail, and it was a beautiful mail. It was a long mail that said that Joel, we really want you to come be a speaker over here, and they gave me the normal attachments that come with the TEDx talk, which is what are the guidelines, so on and so forth. And it was such an overwhelming experience, because I remember I spent 2 weeks only watching other TED talks online to just make sure that I could pick out whatever learnings I could pick out from them, and just sort of structure my talks in a nice way. And I finally narrowed down on one topic. I remember I did multiple rehearsals. I must have troubled all my colleagues to sit and listen to my talk over and over and over again. At one point, they had memorized my talk. I remember they were tired of listening to me. There was no way to sit listen to me. Everyone in my life back then, they have all my friends, everybody, all people around me back then, they were like sitting and listening to my talk. And I remember I had to finally, we had to travel to Ahmedabad. I had to travel to Ahmedabad to give the talk. It was happening um, uh, inside Ahmedabad University's HLCC section, so it was happening over there. And I remember I told my mom that I want you to come with me, and I booked her tickets to sort of come and watch the talk with me. And she sat in the audience. I remember when she was watching, she was in tears, and it was such a very emotional moment for me as well. I remember because I remember it was a dream growing up in one of the as something that I wanted to achieve. And finally, when I got done with it, I was like, done. That's one thing off the bucket list. And I still now that I look back at it, maybe I would have done two things differently. Maybe I would have done another topic. I'm not too sure, and I would not have shaved because I look like a kid on stage. But yeah, it was such an overwhelming and a nice experience for me. And it's forever something that I'll hold dear and close. So yeah.
So beautiful. I've got goosebumps
Yeah.
listening to it, given that it's just one email, it's just one platform, it's one stage, but the value that it holds, and also it takes a lot of courage to put yourself out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of people might not, even speak about having a single mother and stuff like that,
Yeah.
even in this interview, because they want to have that protected image of themselves. So it's so good to see you so candidly, and I'm pretty sure there also everybody who would have been in the audience, though now I regret
Yeah.
being in that audience, would have felt that emotion. So which is very beautiful. And now this gets me to your rapid fire. So it's going to be very quick. Are you ready?
I will try. I'm very bad with rapid fires, but I will try.
That's okay. So branding or content strategy?
Content strategy,
Okay. Content or consistency?
both.
Wow. Inbound or outbound?
Inbound, always.
And why so?
I always love getting there. The whole journey of getting there. It is so fulfilling. Always.
Okay. And LinkedIn or Instagram?
I'm going to be biased and say Instagram.
Okay. And what
even
makes
though
you
even though it's also because I have a certain base already over there. But I don't want to disappoint my LinkedIn folks. So LinkedIn also. So I will say
okay?
both.
But what's special about Instagram at the moment, given that you have a base, is a separate thing, but also do you enjoy creating content over there and stuff?
Uh, I mean, it's the place where I started, so it's there. So I mean, I post things, and I have an audience already over there. They're very kind and very loving readers, and they look forward. They keep messaging, saying where's the next post coming on. So I have built that audience base over the years over there. Something that I really sort of they're of a lot of value to me. So I'm really thankful to a lot of them over there, for supporting the work over the years. So that's the reason why, sort of thing. But again, I mean, LinkedIn's also nice. But I mean, me, I'm still
Yeah,
I'm still
yeah,
finding my footing on
absolutely. I
LinkedIn.
understand that. Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, it's going to take a while for LinkedIn to also become
absolutely.
that thing.
Okay, so one thing about personal branding that nobody talks about.
Um, I think everything is pretty much been spoken about. I would still suggest that and I always say this is that that every piece of content that you create is an opportunity to start a conversation, right? So try to create in a way that starts conversations, and once you do that, I think that's a great way of sort of coming across as this personal brand who talks about things and who people want to sort of talk to, not just hear. So yeah, that's one thing I sort of at least follow.
Got it. And okay, two ways in which you brainstorm content ideas for your Instagram or LinkedIn or your social media in general. First is, of course, your stories. What's the second?
Um, I love meeting and talking to new people because I think they're great. And I'm not just, and I don't just mean people who I'd meet outside socially. I mean everybody from someone who's from my rickshaw driver to the taxi driver to the person I would meet in while getting down the stairs. Everybody, if I can have a conversation, I feel the world is just filled with so many interesting people out there, and the moment we start acknowledging that they all have their own personal stories, when it will also influence the writing and the stories you tell. So I just love meeting new people and hearing their stories because I love hearing them talk. So it just helps me sort of take so much from them and learn so much more from them. and then put it into my own stuff. That's been the one go-to thing. And another thing that I love doing, and it's something that I've been doing over the years, is that I love creating fictional worlds in
Uh,
just general across the board. Um, and I love making those worlds very believable. So
mm,
if I'm able to sort of create a fictional world where enough people are able to believe in it, then I love doing that. Right, that
uh,
keeps me just putting it out there. So
got it.
yeah.
Okay. What do you think is the future of content in general?
Uh, it's such a difficult question to answer, right? Because it's evolving so much every single day, and the more you think you've got content, the more you should realize you haven't, because there's just a lot of learning, especially when it comes to content. And there's something over the years, I've realized, especially now working in a content company, right? Because advertising is different, because there's when you're advertising to a whole set of people, but when you're doing content company, again, you're advertising to a certain set of audience, right? And in terms of the future, I don't know. It's very difficult for me to predict what could change in this general. But I definitely know that we've only reached a certain section when it comes to exploring with formats, right? Because they're just given the certain set of formats that we also have, and the mediums that we have out there. There's still so much more to be done inside of it. And I feel the more people are getting access to the internet on their phones and stuff like that, just opens up a whole different avenue to sort of reach them. Because every time someone picks up a phone and has the access to the internet, they become a potential customer or an audience base that they can reach out to. So, in terms of the future of content, I still feel that it's going to grow, especially in terms of the regional landscape, because that's really picking up right now. So I'm really curious to see how brands capitalize on the regional landscape and go even further. So that's something I'm really looking for. Some brands have done that. A lot of brands are doing it. So there's that. And also, I'm really curious to see how a lot of startups and entrepreneurs, how they break into the sort of the content space and what they do for their own personal brands, because we've seen so many startups, and obviously they're great services. But again, I mean, the service is there, but then you need to be on top of your audience minds all the time, which is why you put out content, or you put out your social media pieces every day, right? So I'm very curious to see how these new startups, what they do in their space. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that happens. So that's definitely going to be a big step to see whether the biggies get the competition from all the new entrants in terms of the content space at least. So yeah.
Got it. And my last question is, where do you see yourself 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, 5 year down the line?
Hopefully surviving the pandemic, because that is one big thing. I have, as a matter of fact, in general, I have found it the hardest question to answer as to where do you see yourself in 6 months, because back in March, first week, I saw myself traveling for the next 6 months, and well, I ended up staying at home. So, well, the future is uncertain, as bleak as it sounds, but I'm hoping things get better. I'm hoping the world gets better in some space, and there's some sort of normalcy. I mean, it is slowly coming back to normal, but I hope that sense of normalcy is achieved in some way or the other. That because more than I feel, from a personal front, it has affected a lot of people, a lot of people's businesses, a lot of people's livelihoods, which is uh, I see it's very heartbreaking to see, because when you see the amount of people who've lost jobs, and the amount of people who the industries that have suffered, travel, hospitality. I have had friends who've lost jobs because of that, and it's very heartbreaking. So I just hope somewhere down the line, if there is something good that's happening, I hope things come back to normal for them, especially, so that they can just get back to their immunity. I mean, life shouldn't be that hard for these people in general. So I just hope it comes back to normal for them. So yeah,
That's so beautiful. This is
yeah.
by far one of the most heartwarming and gorgeous conversations I've had in this series. I'm so thankful to Story for giving me this opportunity for hosting people like you. Um, you made my morning. To
I'm so glad.
be honest.
I'm so glad. Thank you so
Uh,
much for having me, though. I'm so glad. Thanks to Robin, and thanks to you as well for just inviting me to be a part of this. I'm so glad I was able to come. Do this, like, talk like random stuff in the morning. But yeah, I don't know how much of help it was, but I'm just
It
glad I
was
was able to
really
come
helpful
across
in
you.
so many unknown ways that you maybe not
Yeah.
know about right now. But thank you so much for taking out time. It was an honor hosting you. I hope you
Thank
have
you.
a fantastic year, how much ever it's left, and a great life ahead. And I really hope to see you on the top banners. Truly deserve it.
Thank you so much. I hope that your thing also grows and someone walks up to you someday. They're like, "Hey, Unnati, you're an inspiration for us." And we're really glad of what you do, and I really hope that you also end up doing a lot more in life, like grow. So that's what everyone should do, right? Everyone should just grow and just become
Absolutely.
big. That's how the world should be.
All right.